This is a 1980 Fender Stratocaster. It's got the 3-bolt neck, the big-ass headstock, and 45 years of wear and tear that desperately needs to be addressed. The nut is worn out, it's had a sloppy refret, the bridge saddles are damaged, and I'd like to take this repair opportunity to try something different with the pickups and the look. Join me as I revive this guitar, resurrecting it into the late 70s rock Strat it always deserved to be. If you are interested in the history of this Stratocaster and want to find out more about its original condition, you can check out my previous video on the topic. The link will be in the description. There will also be links to all of the tools and materials I use in this renovation, should you want to grab any for yourself. As you can see, I've done a lot of work that I need to catch you up on, starting with the frets. This Capri came to me having received a fairly recent refret. Unfortunately, it wasn't the careful work one might hope for. As evidenced from the many chip outs in the rosewood fingerboard and damage to the lacquer around the fret ends, these old frets were apparently pulled cold and with little regard for preserving the fingerboard. While these new tall frets were well seated, levelled and crowned appropriately, the quality of the fret ends left a lot to be desired. So we're cracking out the fretting tools once again and we're going to make this right. We're starting with the levelling file to flush up the ends and introduce more of a bevel to the frets. This is followed with sandpaper to ensure a smooth transition from fingerboard into fret, which is especially important here since the refret didn't undercut the tang, making it more likely to protrude with changes in humidity and catch on the hands while playing. I can't correct for that completely without pulling all of the frets out, so the best I can do is make this as smooth as possible. Some of the higher frets get particularly gnarly where the tang is bent relative to the fret for some reason. To whoever performed this refret, you need a bit more practice. Maybe check out some of my refret videos for tips. Anyway, a wet polish of all the frets and fingerboard edges gives us that coveted played-in, rolled-over fingerboard thing that everyone bangs on about, and some super slick frets to bend on. If you're freaking out about the water, calm your tits. We're not submerging the guitar. It's not on there long enough to soak into the wood. The warm water, with a drop of dish soap, simply helps the micro mesh pads cut better and captures the metal dust so that I don't need to breathe it. Wet polishing gives a better final result, and I was smart enough to apply a protective wax coat to the fingerboard to repel water before polishing, and a penetrative lemon oil application after it was all done. Given the refret, it's not surprising the nut also needed replaced. The original nut had its slots worn deeper and deeper to keep up with the old worn frets, but after the refret, rather than making a new nut with slots the appropriate depth, our mystery tech decided that it would be a spiffing idea to put superglue in the nut slot, let it harden, and build up a CA shim to raise the height of the original nut. So yeah, I have a brand new nut blank. Let's get all the slop cleared out of the nut slot, get the blank fitting snugly, and begin the process of shaping our new nut. Now some of you might be asking, Colin, why didn't you buy a prefabricated nut and save yourself the trouble? Well, two reasons. One, I have all the tools, experience, and skill to do this myself. So why let some fucking machine have all the fun? It's great practice for me, and you get to watch something interesting in this video. But the second and biggest reason is that this Strat is abnormal. Most prefab Strat nuts you'll find are sized for modern, normal Strats in either 42 or 43mm widths. This nut is 40.8mm wide. It's narrower and the strings are spaced more closely together. I didn't come across any prefab nuts in those dimensions in my search, and I knew if I wanted something that was going to fit this guitar properly, I was going to have to make it myself. And I'm making it on the guitar to make sure I get it right, and because I don't have one of those fancy nut cutting vices or anywhere to mount one. What happens if you slip? Well, I didn't. That would be a skill issue and bad tool control. And even if I did, what a shame to put an extra ding in a guitar that looks like this. But what about the scuffed up tape? Ah, you've made the assumption that the tape is there to protect the guitar. It's not. If I slipped with the file, it would go straight through this thin masking tape and mar the fretboard regardless. The tape is there as a depth gauge. It allows me to get the file really close to flush with the edge, and once the file begins to damage the tape, I know I'm the tape's thickness away from perfection. It's a very clear visual indicator of when I need to stop with the aggressive file and move to spot sanding. The tape also helps to catch all of the bone dust and prevent it from getting stuck in the grain of the fingerboard or getting clogged up in the truss rod adjustment. With the slot depths finalised with the slotting files, ensuring a nice low action while leaving enough clearance to allow the strings to ring out without contacting any of the frets, I can smooth out all of the tool marks with the wet micromesh pads, blending the nut into the fingerboard and bringing it up to a shine with some polishing compound, and finally buffing the nut and the surrounding wood with a wax-based treatment, like a French polish, to really contrast just how nasty the original nut looks. A number of the original adjustment screws for the saddles had been chewed up, or were broken, or were rusted in place, making it impossible to correctly adjust the bridge for action and intonation. With official Fender replacement parts in hand, you can now witness the absolute most awkward way that I chose to change all of the screws in these saddles. You see, I just put a fresh set of strings on this guitar and I wasn't about to waste them for the sake of 12 grub screws and 6 intonation bolts. So I made these alterations with the strings still threaded through the saddles, which honestly wasn't as much hassle as it looks. While these new screws brought the bridge back to full functionality, there are still some damaged saddles and string spacing issues that I'd like to address further down the line. When next this guitar needs a string change, I've got this set of Goto chrome-plated brass saddles that will replace the damaged Zamac ones, improving the looks, performance, and perhaps even the sounds of this guitar. Now, you might think that spending all this money on a vintage instrument equipped with the original pickups and electronics, that I would be intending to keep it stock. But you'd be wrong! Fuck the resale value, I want to play this thing to death, and I'm going to do it on a very special set of pickups. If I'm totally honest with myself, the only reason I bought this guitar was to have something era appropriate to put these pickups into. This is a set of pickups that I never thought I'd get a chance to play because until very recently, these were lost to time. The original builder is long dead, the production had ceased for decades, and the surviving pickups from the 70s are very rare and very expensive. Red Road's Velvet Hammer pickups were some of the very first aftermarket pickups available, and they were legendary. Everyone in the LA scene from the early 70s through to Red's passing in the mid-90s knew exactly how great these were and how ahead of the curve Red was in his designs. And that includes names like Joan Jett, Mark Knopfler, and Ritchie Blackmore. These are not original Velvet Hammers, but they might as well be. All the same specifications, the same materials, hand-wound on the same winding rig that Red used 50 years ago, but made by Sydney Rhodes, Red's granddaughter, using knowledge passed down through her father and others who worked alongside Red in the days of Velvet Hammer. The story behind Red Rhodes and his contributions to the music industry are frankly staggering, and Sydney's journey to restore her grandfather's legacy by reviving Velvet Hammer equally so, and as such, they deserve their own dedicated video. I had a long conversation with Sydney a few months back as she was travelling across the US to set up shop and re-establish the brand, so expect to see a video talking more about Velvet Hammer soon. All you need to know for now is that this is the S2 set. The same pickups that Ritchie Blackmore used in his Strats from around 1975. These are responsible for many of the tones of the rainbow era of Blackmore. By modern standards, you probably wouldn't consider these to be high output pickups, but compared to what Fender were putting in their guitars in the 70s, these were ferocious. This was a hot rod mod for Blackmore, and the reverse wound middle pickup, which Fender wouldn't offer for at least another 5 years, gave the option of noiseless operation, once his tech removed the magnets and wired it in as a dummy coil. I'm leaving mine in a standard 5-position Strat arrangement for now, at least until I've had the opportunity to properly catalogue and explore all of the different sounds. Maybe later I'll do the dummy coil mod and make a video explaining that. For now though, here's just a general taste of the 70s rock capabilities of this Capri Strat. I'll be doing a little bit of Deep Purple because I invested time into learning the Burn solo, and I'm going to play it as often as I can. Judging by the comments that I've seen on videos and shorts where this guitar has featured over the last few months, people are really digging how this looks. To find a hardtail Strat in this colour and this condition of this age was a pretty rare find, and I just had to get it. Fender don't make anything that looks like this anymore, without going through the mod shop anyway. And as I documented previously, all of the weird 70s things that people usually hate about these guitars just make me love it more. I think it hits far harder visually with the black pickguard, and those Velvet Hammer pickups are everything I could have hoped for and more. I'm getting sounds out of this that I've never been able to get out of a Strat, and it's really opened my eyes to the potential of single coil pickups in a distorted rock context. I've been playing a lot of Deep Purple, Rainbow and other 70s and 80s rock stuff on this, and it absolutely eats it up. It feels like a vintage guitar in the best way possible. You've got to give it a little bit more to get what you want out of it, but the sound you are rewarded with is so unique compared to modern instruments. I've been flipping back and forth between the Capri Strat and this modern orange Ibanez RG. Both of them so different in how they play and the vibes they give. Also a huge gulf in price. You could have 4 of these for how much has been spent on this, but both of these are my favourite guitars right now. There's definitely room for both new and old guitars in your sonic palette. Anyway, let me know what you think of this Capri Strat. Leave a comment about it down below. That's all for now. Keep it loud and stay safe.